Are LA and Toronto beefing? I don't know if the cities are, but there's definitely some beef going on between someone involved with LA and someone involved with Canada. And we know why. It's because of Shohei Ohtani. And heading into a weekend where Ohtani might sign, Jeff and I will give our final pleas to Ohtani on why he should come to the Dodgers. So that's what's on tap. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 winning moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, which is the pride and joy of our fans, all you have to do is listen or watch every single day, or as close to every single day as you can. If this is your first time listening or watching, this is your first step to becoming an everydayer. And I'm Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host, Jeff Snider. And we are both lifelong Dodger fans that have been Dodger fans our entire lives. We've become more ingrained with the Dodgers the last few years doing this podcast. We've also covered the team in various capacities. We've been in the press box. We've been in the locker room. We've interviewed players. We've been at Camelback Ranch. We've been in a wide variety of ways covering the Dodgers, but we're not quite insiders. We're just here to bring you what we believe is some smart takes about the Dodgers, and hopefully some takes that you agree with, and maybe some you don't agree with. That's the joy of this world. So now, speaking on all that, there was no moves from the Dodgers. There was some small moves, a couple of small moves made, not really any new rumblings or musings other than Andrew Friedman probably went to Japan to go visit with Yamamoto or go check out Yamamoto. It was kind of unclear, but either way, the one thing that did go on, Jeff, was a little bit of beef between one of your favorite analysts on Sportsnet LA, Jerry Hairston Jr., and a Canadian news or sports reporter analyst dude about LA and Toronto and getting Ohtani to each one of those cities.
Yeah, it's and I know you're being a little tongue in cheek when you say Jerry's one of my favorites. Although I have to say I do love Jerry Hairston. I think he's great in his role. I just sometimes have to point out that there's a reason he's in his role and not, Dave Roberts' role or Andrew Friedman's role. But yeah, it's kind of funny. It's kind of like fans, and fans are going back and forth on social media too. Here's why you should choose the Dodgers. Here's why you should choose the Blue Jays. And Jay Hair did a segment on Access Sportsnet making his pitch to Shohei Ohtani about the reasons he should choose the Dodgers. And then some guy named Sid in Toronto, he has a last name too, but I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. Some guy named Sid is his official name. He got offended by what Jerry had to say, and responded. He made some decent points. He also made some terrible points. And, if you haven't watched the videos, maybe we'll try to remember to put links to both, or I guess there's 3 videos now, because then Jay Hair responded to him too. And Jay Hair didn't address anything that some guy named Sid said, except for the fact that some guy named Sid mispronounced Shohei Ohtani's name the entire time. And so did his co-host. And so, that's all that Jay Hair pointed out in his final video. It's mostly dumb, I think. Not too dumb, I guess, since you and I are going to engage in the same nonsense the last 2 segments of this episode, talking about why Shohei Ohtani should choose the Dodgers. I do think it was kind of funny that some guy named Sid, one of his points was that Jerry Hairston only played for the Dodgers for 2 years. And so some guy named Sid said, I know as much about LA as Jerry Hairston does. To be fair, Jerry Hairston has worked for the Dodgers consistently and constantly since he retired. So from the time that Jerry signed with the Dodgers on December 5th, 2011, he has been with the Dodgers organization. So that's 12 full years, 12 years and 2 days at this point, which is probably longer than Shohei Ohtani is going to spend with whatever team he signs with. So I thought that was a silly argument that some guy named Sid made. Jerry Hairston mentioned the weather in Toronto, and some guy named Sid said, well, last time I checked, it snows in California too. He may have wanted to check a little bit more closely at the size of California and where Los Angeles is located there, because it doesn't snow in Los Angeles. And there is snow close enough. If you do want to go up and go skiing in Big Bear, it's an hour drive or whatever. That's nice. But yeah, you're not going to win in a battle of the weather between Toronto and LA. Toronto does have the dome, which he pointed out. And, Jay Hare made a point about taxes being high in Canada. And, I thought that was kind of an interesting point for somebody in California to be making. So, there was good points and bad points made on both sides, but mostly it just underscored for me, neither of them is talking about very much that probably is even that important to Shohei Ohtani, at least the little things they're bickering about. Like, one of our biggest points on this show has been, we have no idea what Shohei Ohtani wants, but our best guess is, it probably doesn't, have to do with who likes which city more, because somebody from, some guy named Sid is from Mississauga, which is right outside Toronto. Yeah, he's going to like Toronto more. And Jerry Hairston works for the Dodgers, so he's going to like LA more. So, you know what? It's probably a good thing that Shohei Ohtani probably will never see any of those video clips, because I doubt that either guy did much to convince him of anything.
Yeah, it was funny how like personal Sid got, talking about Harrison being on 9 teams and 16 seasons, and like he played 16 seasons in the big leagues. Doesn't matter how many teams you're on. That's a long MLB career. But yeah, it was funny. I'm not on Twitter or in certain spaces as much anymore, so I don't know if there has been like LA Toronto beef on there, which I'm sure there is, or LA, even LASF or LA, wherever else Ohtani might go. But as we're going to talk about in the next couple of segments, there are reasons we believe that not just LA, but the Dodgers specifically are reasons for Ohtani to go. And seeing as how he might decide here in the next few days, and we know he's going to watch this episode for sure.
Yeah, he's an everydayer.
Yeah, he's going to watch this for sure, just to, kind of help to make his decision. We're going to pitch that for it. But yeah, it was all fun. Hairston had, the higher road, which not surprising because he's more of a personality, but he had the ring on, he had his Emmy right there, he had his background with all his jerseys. He definitely came out looking a little bit better than Sid did in that one.
Yeah, I did like that some guy named Sid made the point of the Blue Jays have won more World Series titles since 1992. I thought that was a very specific point. Yeah, the Blue Jays did win in 92 and 93, so they've won 2 since 92. So in the last 31 years, the Blue Jays have won 2 World Series. But don't go back to 35 years or heaven forbid 42 years, because then the numbers change. So let's stick at a nice, meaningful, obviously relevant 32 years. And our buddy Ray Lokar, who's an everydayer, he made a funny point when some guy named Sid said Jerry played for 9 teams. Nobody even wanted him. That's like Yogi Berra saying nobody goes to that restaurant anymore. It's too busy. Like, 9 teams signed him. That's 9 more than signed some guy named Sid.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, coming up are our pitches to Shohei Ohtani and why he should join the Dodgers. That's what's coming up, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The weather is getting colder, but the offers stay hot at FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 winning moneyline bet. Last night, the Steelers actually lost to the 2-9 or 2-10 Patriots. So if you had bet Steelers, you do not get $150. If you had bet the Patriots, you do get it. But good enough if you didn't vote or if you didn't pick any of those teams and you're picking this weekend, you got a lot of games to choose from, because all you have to do is pick one winning money line bet, which is one win straight up, pick the team. No odds or spreads or anything like that. And you get $150 to put on some other stuff, which you can use with spreads, player props, over-unders, all that type of stuff. The FanDuel app is there, easy to use. Go check it out. It's fun to build out these parlays. You see people turn $5 into thousands of dollars all the time online. Why not make it yourself? So go to fanduel.com/lockedon and you can get started and get going with your moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, and make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. We are here, and there's also something new from the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. Locked On Sports Today is the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, Jeff. So, Shohei Ohtani has either made his decision already and is just kind of working on the contract. He has not made a decision. He's whatever it is. It's time for us. We've talked about reasons why it would make sense for him to sign, but we haven't necessarily pitched him yet. So with the time, people are saying next week, by end of the weekend, whatever the case is, it's time for us to make our final pitches to Shohei Ohtani. And, I'll let you start off.
All right. My first pitch, honestly, would be the most obvious one, which is the Dodgers win every season. Shohei Ohtani has played 6 years in the big leagues, been teammates with Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon and other superstars, and he has played 0 playoff games. And that is essentially guaranteed to change in real Los Angeles. And so you assume that it's not safe to assume many things about Shohei Ohtani, but him wanting to win, I think, is safe to assume. And so getting to the postseason is a very important step in winning the World Series. And the Dodgers do that step every single year. And there's no sign of that ending. And by comparison, the Blue Jays, they've made it 5 times in the last 9 years, also 5 times in the last 31 years. What do you know? So it's the Dodgers have proven that they are going to put together a winning team, make it to the postseason every year, and with Shohei Ohtani, have a very good chance of winning the Couple World Series during the 10 years he'd be there.
Yeah, that's the easiest, argument, but really the only one you kind of need. There's been, it's always funny how all these reports and speculation, everything comes about not wanting to, Japanese players specifically not wanting to play with other Japanese superstars on the same team. And, one of the things I've read about Ohtani at least one time in the past was how he kind of wanted to be, like the superhero, the savior of a team and lead them to the playoffs and whatnot. And as we've seen, it's probably not possible in MLB. You can't be one person and lead a team to the playoffs. So why not join a team that does make the playoffs? I'm going to go a little more city-based. Ohtani, we can sell him on the Dodgers, we don't have to sell him on Los Angeles specifically as hard just because he's lived in the general area, similar traits at the very least. But it's weather. You go to the AL East, and in the first part of the season and toward the later part of the season, you're going to have to wear long sleeves and turtlenecks and deal with rain, and maybe your start down the line gets rained out, or you have to wait 30 minutes in delay. With the Dodgers, that might happen when you're on the East Coast or in the middle of the country, but it's very far and few between. It's not going to happen when you play at Dodger Stadium. It's really not going to happen when you play, against San Diego or San Francisco. So maybe a little bit of Colorado sometimes. It's not going to happen in Arizona. So for the most part, the majority of your games is going to be played in good weather and or good stadiums. The Dodger Stadium, obviously, we know what that means and how that is. But, Petco Park is one of the nicer stadiums in all of baseball. And Oracle Park, I believe what it is now, is one of the nicer stadiums in all of baseball. So you're going to play a majority of the games in great to perfect weather.
Yeah, that's a very good one. That was my alternate. I have 4 things written down, and that was my 5th one in case you stole one of mine. I do think you will be more city based than me because I'm not even from LA. I'm from Southern California originally, but I've lived much more of my life outside of California than in California, including where I live now. And so, my love of the Dodgers doesn't really have anything to do with the city, and so we probably won't have much overlap. But the closest I come to being city based is, what Anthony Rendon would have called the Hollywood lifestyle. And I think for Shohei Ohtani, that's a selling point because Shohei is going to be a big fish wherever he goes. But for me, he seems like the guy who's more comfortable being a big fish in a big pond than a big fish in a small pond. And the Blue Jays have stars. I'm not saying the Blue Jays are a bunch of nobodies, but the Los Angeles has stars. Like if Shohei Ohtani goes shopping, in LA, people there is likely to run into Robert De Niro as they are to run into Shohei Ohtani. In Toronto, it's a lot of movies get filmed in Toronto. Not the good movies though. Like the LA is superstar laden. There are a ton of big stars there, both sports and outside of sports. And I think for Shohei, it would be easier for him to just, I live in a town with a bunch of big stars and I'm one of them, rather than I live in a town with a few big stars and I'm the biggest.
Yeah, he's going to be, in Toronto, baseball is probably, I guess when the Blue Jays are good, baseball might be like second to hockey out there. The Raptors had that run in 2019 with Kawhi Leonard where they won it all. Drake is more connected to the Raptors and only kind of jumps on the Blue Jays when they're in the playoffs or when it conveniences him. But yeah, if you go to Toronto, like it's going to be you and Drake, and I'm sure there's other Canadian people or Torontoians, but that's kind of where you're at. We're here. One, I mean, other than Ohtani being, a huge dude, he might not even get recognized if he was walking the streets realistically, not even because the Dodgers aren't popular, just because, the general public who's doing all that kind of shopping or whatever might not, be Dodger fans or even big baseball fans. So yeah, I think that kind of fits in well. The next one I have is also, you talk about the superstars off the field, but the Dodgers have superstars on the field. And, playing with Mookie Betts, who he called one of his favorite players, if not his favorite player, the way he moved between, right field and second base this year. You get to play with Freddie Freeman, assuming Kershaw comes back, you'll get to play with one of the best of all time at, left-handed pitchers there. And, seemingly, depending how long he signs or would sign with the Dodgers, you're bound to play with other superstars. He played with Mike Trout in Anaheim, and Rendon got added, and guys like that. But if he had just played with the Dodgers like the last 10 years, and he hasn't been around 10 years, but you would have played with Mookie and Freddie, and we talked about it before, Manny Machado, Max Scherzer, Trey Turner, different guys like that. Yu Darvish at some point,
Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, exactly. Corey Seager, like you're gonna be playing with these guys, and you're gonna have the chance to see some of these guys blossom. Like if Bobby Miller's the next dude, you'll be able to play with him if he becomes that guy, and different players like that. So I think personnel wise, it goes with the winning, but it's also just a matter of the Angels went for it this year, but the Angels going for it was the equivalent of, trying to put duct tape on a beat up car. They went for smaller names. They gave up, they don't have much farm system to work with. And, it wasn't obviously in the end, it wasn't enough to do anything. And, leaving last year, Ohtani played with guys that were drafted the same year or the year before. And here he wouldn't have to worry about that. He'd worry about playing with established major league talent and superstars.
Yeah.
All right, there are more things for us to pitch to Ohtani, but we'll have them in a second. So keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Logix. On this show, you get a lot of in-depth analysis and hot takes. And, let me give you a hot take for the day. The best lineup in LA right now is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off the top with my favorites, the proven and dependable new and used vehicle loans. You can count on these guys to give you low rates and save you big time bucks. Next up, they've got an exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. And rounding out the lineup, they've got their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you could lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. And look, I know it's a hot take, but seriously, no one can beat the lineup at Logix. So visit your local Logix branch right here in LA and surrounding areas and let one of their amazing team members help you. Or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com/car. That's LOGIX banking.com/CAR. Go check out Logix. If you are not an everydayer, that is someone who listens or watches to this show every day, please become one and make us your first listen of the day. We are wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube at Locked On Dodgers. And we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Jeff, let's hop right back into it and make these pitches.
All right. This one comes close to being similar to your last one, but I'm taking it from a different angle. You talked about the superstar Shohei Ohtani could play with. I want to talk specifically about Mookie Betts. You did touch on the fact that Shohei said that Mookie is one of his favorite players. More importantly, Shohei and Mookie are my daughter's two favorite players. And that's important. They both look great in Dodger blue. Like we know Mookie looks great, and you can just picture Shohei in Dodger blue. There's been enough mock-ups of him in the Dodgers jersey. We can see it. Like putting those two guys in the same uniform that happens to be my daughter's favorite team and her two favorite players. Like you can't overstate how important it is for my daughter's two favorite players to be teammates. And the only way for that to happen is for Shohei to sign with the Dodgers. And so I think that's probably the best reason. And so that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I mean, you can't disappoint Lindsay, so that's a good one. All right, my next one is specifically toward Los Angeles again. And forgive me for those that are into this stuff if they're different, but kind of from what I looked at, I think they'd all be covered here. So Shohei is a fan of manga and anime, I would believe, as an extension, or also the largest anime expo in Northern America is in Los Angeles every year. It's the Anime Expo held in downtown LA every year. And, it's usually during the season. I believe it's usually in July. So the Dodger would have to be in town for him to be able to go. But, for somebody that enjoys that type of stuff and, the culture, I would imagine Toronto has an anime culture as well. And, maybe even overall stronger than LA. But when it comes down to it, when you're coming to the biggest expo for that, you're coming to Los Angeles, and that's where it's at. And, he can go and enjoy it and explore and maybe meet some people that he likes in that world and get immersed into it and, enjoy his time. And I think it goes to a greater thing of being in LA of, whatever you want, whatever you like, there's going to be something for you for the most part. If you like the beach is right there. If you like the snow in the mountains are not that far away. If you, like anime, then the largest anime expo is here. If you like other sports, there's almost two teams in every sport here. And obviously he's kind of had that living in Newport and being part of Anaheim, but that's a long way from downtown LA and greater LA area on this side where there's a lot more going on. He can still go to Disneyland, but he can also go to Santa Monica Pier. Like, there's just a lot for him to do. And, I would imagine, I don't know if he always stays here in the off season in LA or Newport, wherever he lives. I know he is here right now, but that's definitely a big sell for you in your off season and in your regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. And, not to mention, we've talked about what a big percentage of his income is going to come from sponsorships, and that stuff's probably bigger here in LA. My last one is similar to my first one, but different too. It's, I mentioned the Dodgers go to the postseason every year, but I think Dodgers ownership and their commitment to winning is something that that is just so important, because wherever Shohei signs, he's committing a decade or so to spending time there. And if you look at the Blue Jays over the last decade, it's not just, only making the postseason half the time. It's also the competitive, like they've finished under 500 3 times in the last decade. They've had 3 different managers. It's the Dodgers consistently have a high payroll, a commitment to winning. They are well run, like everything from ownership down through player development, front office, on field. Everything about the Dodgers is geared towards success, both for the team and for the individual players. And that's something that they've proven over the course of a long time. And the Blue Jays do not have that track record of being long-term committed to success. They are like most teams where they ebb and flow. And that, like the Padres right now, they went for it. And now, they traded Juan Soto and Trent Grisham. There's talk that Ha-Seong Kim might be on the market. They are maybe pulling back. And we've seen the Padres do that repeatedly over the last few decades. We've seen, the Marlins do it. We've seen even the Blue Jays do it. And so the fact that the Dodgers never rebuild, they just retool and come at you again, has got to be appealing to a guy looking to decide, where am I going to spend the next decade? And can I be successful for a full decade? Dodgers are the clear answer there, among not just between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, but between the Dodgers and every other franchise in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers are clearly the most consistently committed to winning.
Yeah, can't argue with that. My last one goes a little bit with the last one in the sense of being the largest in North America, and LA is the largest Japanese American population in North America. There's multiple cities down, there's, obviously he's from Japan, so there's Little Tokyo, which has a lot of, the food. There's a lot of good restaurants, ramen, different things like that I know he would probably enjoy. If you want to try other cuisines, there's Koreatown and there's Chinatown, and then you can, find good Mexican food all over. There's taco trucks all over if you're into that. The food scene in LA, pretty good. I'm not saying the food scene in Toronto isn't good. I haven't been there. But for, specifically if you get homesick, you got the largest population right here, and you can go out after Dodger games and go to Little Tokyo and get yourself some ramen, and it's, hopefully going to be pretty good. I've been down to a couple of places down there, and they're good to me. But again, sometimes they lose in translation going over. But either way, I think in general, it's just Toronto is, from all I've heard, a great city, but also, you're still in Canada, and there are different things that come with that. And, there's funny little, musings and sayings that they have. They have, their voices can sometimes sound a little bit funnier, the way they speak in their A and, things like that. I don't know if that matters to him. Probably not. But for me, the pitch is LA. The Dodgers is just, or the pitch is the Dodgers, but LA is like, the little cherry on top, because it's, I don't know where he would live specifically. Freddie Freeman, I know, still has a place in Newport or some area over there and commutes sometimes, but he also has a place closer to LA. So there's just a lot. And, at least in downtown, I'd have to look. I'm not sure how pet friendly it is. I know he has his dog, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would either take care, or places down there that take care of dogs, because dogs are pretty big out here too.
Yeah. I think it's also worth noting something that our buddy Pat Dwyer has pointed out, the time zones between Japan and LA and Toronto. A 7 p.m. game in Toronto starts at 9 a.m. in Tokyo, whereas a 7 p.m. game in LA starts at noon in Tokyo. And I think anybody with the job can tell you it's a lot easier to get away with turning on a game in the background while you're at work at noon than at 9 a.m. when you first get into the office. And so just little things like that, as far as his market goes back in Japan, probably makes more sense to be on the West Coast than on the East Coast. And so, yeah, we could have done 6 hours of why the Dodgers are the right choice. And I'm sure, Shohei wishes we would, as he's watching this. He's like, tell me more, guys. But, I think we got the point across.
Yeah. I didn't even really talk about the Dodgers specifically too much in my pitch. And, there's definitely a lot more there. And we didn't even talk about the fans, like playing in front of those fans every night. Toronto has a raucous crowd, like I said, when they're in the playoffs or when they're good, but the Dodgers have a consistently strong crowd no matter what. And realistically, you're going to be good the entire time you're there. So that means you're going to have that, even more raucous crowd than before. So,
yeah. The Blue Jays have topped 3 million fans once in the last 6 seasons. The Dodgers do it every year. Dodgers had 3.8 million this year. The Blue Jays haven't done that since they were getting the bump when the Sky Dome first opened and they were winning the World Series, and as some guy named Sid pointed out, that was 32 years ago. So, it's been a long time since the Blue Jays have drawn like the Dodgers do every single year.
Yeah. Similar blues, but Dodger blue is the iconic one. So
yeah, Blue Jays do have nice uniforms. I like their font and everything. I am perfectly happy that the Blue Jays are going to finish in second place here. But yeah, the Dodgers are the right choice.
Yeah, that's all it takes. All right, so there it is, Shohei Ohtani. We look forward to you signing before the weekend ends so we can talk about it. And knowing if he signs this weekend, we know that it was our pitch that made it happen. So
yeah,
that's all we need to talk about. That's all we need to say. So that's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. All you have to do is subscribe and watch or listen every day. Locked On Dodgers, wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube. Remember, Locked On Network, your team every day, has Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles for 24/7 streaming of all the biggest news and stories throughout the day, throughout the night. They're there covering it for you on YouTube. So go check them out and subscribe. And, if you ever don't have something to watch, you can watch that. So you remember, you can find us on social media as well, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincents91. You can DM either of us with any questions, comments, topics, or concerns or corrections. Sometimes we speak and don't maybe look stuff up, and we would like to be made known when that happens, if it does happen. So you can also send us email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail or send us a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car, if you're at home. Search My Device Play Podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you on Monday or when Shohei signs, whichever comes first.